Hey everybody, Edo here, and this is Endeavor. It is live on Kickstarter now, designed by Carl de Visser and Jarratt Gray. I apologize if I get those names wrong, but this is part of one of gaming's great trends of 2017 and 2018, which is taking old, renowned, fantastic games and leveling them up, reworking them, improving it. This is actually an even cooler story because Joshua Cappel and Helena Cappel, Joshua was the artist on this, and they've since started their own board gaming company, and they are using Burnt Island to reprint it. So he has redone the art. They've reached out and been working with the original designers and other people as well, and have produced a pretty outstanding game. I am blown away. Now, I had never played Endeavor. I've heard of it. I know people are big fans of the original game, but I haven't played it, so I'm coming to it without that. This is a Euro territory control game with a number of really great features and aspects to it, but they also changed and improved the game in a lot of different ways. Now, I can't say I played the original and how this is better than or worse than the original because I didn't play it, but looking at how they changed it and, you know, being a designer myself, I can see how they've made it faster, more engaging, and just a livelier experience. The exploits in particular, which I'll talk about, are outstanding. I was blown away by the exploits. I'll talk about them, but that's something, bravo, way to bring something to a game. So what's Endeavor about? Well, this is a Euro game. Everyone has these massive player boards. I mean, I've played so many games where now I'm like, oh, maybe they got it from this game. You've got resource tracks in building, in pots or whatever, culture, money, and sort of politics, and you're going to be building these up. Ultimately, they're worth victory points, but each one of them allows you to do a different thing in the game. The bricks allowed you to build buildings of different value to you. The culture gives you more, or whatever this thing is, more dudes, which are these discs that you can spend each round, so that's powerful. The money lets you take discs back from buildings, which I'll talk about, and the politics affects your hand size, and I'll talk about that in a second. Lastly, you have your building row. Every round, everyone's going to build a building, and once all buildings are done, that signifies the end of the game. The game has a pretty compelling arc. A lot of the fixes and improvements speed up the beginning. I can see the beginning being a little slow, but a wonderful sense of growing, and then everyone has all this capacity for just a couple rounds with the exploits coming in, and it's intense. So I really like the arc of play in this game. And then underneath here you have your cards, which you get from the different regions. You can also get a governor as well, which is valuable. As you build buildings, most buildings have spots, and they give you access to your different actions. So you are going to get, you know, there's this little track you're going to build, you're going to get your resources, you're going to get your workers, then you're going to all go around the table, round and round, using workers to do actions. It's not worker placement in the sense of competing for different spots and knocking people out so much. You're going for all the different spots on the board together, and then at the end of the game, the board has these little tokens and resources you can get either one time or additive to here, or action resources. That shouldn't have been there. Action resources, but at the end of the game, it's mostly covered with these discs. That's one of the more disappointing things. I don't know if it's a stretch goal or not, but the discs sort of get old just because they're discs and they represent, I mean, they represent different things. I know that's why they're going to use a disc. But anyway, so you're going around just doing action selection, and it's zippy and it moves. It's got that sort of Concordia feel where everyone has their plan, you're moving around. Maybe somebody gets your action, but it has a really good clip. So, and then essentially what you're trying to accomplish is have the most points at the end of the game. You are going to be sailing to these different regions. When you sail to a region, so you can get essentially work your way down this track. I can show it over here. Work your way down this track and get you know, sort of units in the region. As you get units in the regions, once all these spots are filled, you can start buying cards. You can also get the governor for the region. The first one there can get that governor. And then you can start landing in different forts. When you land on different forts, oh, and I'll talk about some rules changes because that's one of them from the original. In the original game, you couldn't buy a card until you got all the way up and secured the governor. But now, if you have enough units more than the card, you can, or equal or more than the card you can, which is a big change. It lets you free up card use earlier, for those who know the original game. But then you start taking forts. These are all worth victory points. If you get 2 forts and there's a resource between them, or a value between them, you get those bonuses. Wait a minute. You know, these do have resources on them. Sorry. But they're also worth points. But you can't get them until you get the 2 spots on either side. And what you're doing is you're working just to explore, gain resources, gain those cards, gain those resources, build your engine, go, 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 own areas. The more presence you have, the more you can take over different spots. And that's really the game. It's just zippy, and action selection works fast, and the engine works really nice. And because your cards in your hand can give you buffs to the tracks on the board, your hand size and your cards in your hand really make a big impact. Now, I don't know if there was any brouhaha at the time, but one of the key aspects of this game is slavery. But it's really interestingly implemented. I remember because I mentioned that because the 5 tribes had an issue with that. But in this game, essentially, early on in the game, people can exploit slaves. And slave cards are really powerful. They give you lots of building capability and money and resources. But at the end, somebody, where is it? Here it is. Somebody can abolish slavery. The moment any player abolishes slavery, all slave cards become negative points, and essentially people need to get rid of them. So it's this interesting thing that you can use, and everyone's sort of using, and then it gets abolished, and then you can't. It's thematic to the time period. If that's something you're sensitive to, you should realize that. Let's talk about what's changed, because that's really exciting to me. Again, not having played the original, but let's go through it. So one, in terms of starting building, they added a new starting building. The original building just let you capture, but now they added a ship building, and that sort of gives you a, gives you the ability to focus on whether or not you want to go more ship route or more capture route. It's pretty good, and I think it's something which gives a little bit more flexibility up front. Being able to get these cards before you've completely finished the area gives you a little bit more flexibility up front. They now let you have hold more slave cards, which is more dangerous, speeds up the game, but then if it abolishes, that's a bigger deal. This board is now 2-sided. And it's fully new art. There's the original, but then there's a tighter 2-to-3 board, less spots, but more, not less spots, but like more condensed. Really cool. They added ship zones here that just make the board more densely populated, and a number of little nuancy rules in there as well. Obviously, reordered the art of the board. All of which, as you're playing, you're like, oh, that's going to speed this up. Oh, if you have a double action, you can split them. So just things that give you flexibility, make the game feel a little bit more modern and active, because it does have that dry thing. Now, I want to talk about these exploits, and then I think you understand that I really like this game. I expect this to do well, and I can't wait to see all the things that get leveled up. These are awesome. So one of the complaints I have about this game, minus these, is it's very Euro dry. Like, the art's great, and it's thematic, but, I mean, there's no fiction. You're just capturing territory and putting influence in zones and building up your town, but it doesn't feel like it tells the story of the time period. Actually, the slavery thing sort of is the most, like, thematic hook where you're like, wow, I use slaves, and now this is this duress that you're in when it's abolished. And in one game, Seth was like, we're abolishing it first. So he just gunned for that to abolish slavery because that was really important to him. But these unlock late. The way these work is you'll set 3 of these, and they'll have 2 territories on them. And on the territory governor cards, you put these 2 pieces. Now, whether or not they're those pieces or not, I don't know. But when the governor is picked up, you take those pieces and you put it on the according spot on these boards. And once the 2 appropriate governors have come out, then you've unlocked the exploit. Now, only people in those regions can use the exploit, which I think is outstanding. I heard they might be making that a little bit more easy, but I like it because it's sort of like, did you go for this exploit or not? The exploits are hugely thematic. This is the Republic of Pirates, and in this one, you get a pirate that comes out of Nassau, and then you can move the pirate around the board and start stealing. There's the spice trade, and this one has about putting things into the open sea. Like, this one is the Dutch East India Company, and it's specific locations and endgame scoring, and they give you new abilities. Like, super interesting and thematic. It's like about the region, it's about the territory. You're doing something new and fresh that happens there. I can imagine this almost being its own whole game, and the way it fits in as this 5th, 6th, 7th round thing in this game is awesome. They're so good. They have so much personality. I love how they've used it and expanded on the map without cluttering it. You use the card to do it. But that really impressed me, and I think it's going to add a lot of life and interesting bits. You don't have to play with them, of course, but I felt like they really spiced up that last play. Look, if you're a fan of Endeavor, I can't imagine any reason why you aren't just diving at this Kickstarter. Whether because you played the original and this one's just new, fresh coat of paint, lots of new rules, lots of new improvements, or you just never were able to get a copy of the original, now you can. I think you can play with the original rules or add in these more things. So I think if you're just a player who liked the original and wants the original, I think you're pretty good. But if you're willing and looking to improve it and see these nuances, they work. Maybe use the base rooms and just the exploits, or maybe you do these other little things that speed up play and make it a little bit more dynamic. If you've never played Endeavor, this game is worth your attention. I really enjoyed it. Now, it is a Euro game, so you need to be ready for the fact that, it's a plotting, action selection, engine building, economy, you got lots of things going on, but it feels good to go after territories. There's regular rewards, the economy of, putting workers out there, taking them down, getting buildings, using the cards. These tracks, it's smart, it plays well, and this is just something cool to support. I'm really excited for this, and I think this is excellent work on an already excellent game. So, Kickstarter's live, and this is Endeavor. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff, but most importantly, play some great games. Thanks. Bye.